Interjection here, Nation of Warriors 1v1 commentary number 13. Now this is my second commentary playing Japan, this time against my opponent playing Aztec. Now Aztec is a war chief civ, so likely to be a lot of colonial age pressure. And that does make taking hold of Japan's booming capabilities quite difficult, because there's this trade-off between booming hard and not getting anally pounded by your opponent's rush. Obviously you need to kind of defend and do what you will to defend, but not overdo it and ruin your boom. That is a skill, getting that right, and that is what makes Japan interesting for me. But the first thing I'm going to comment on with Japan is just literally how messy they are at the very start of the game. Okay, you have 6 settlers, that's normal. Other civs get 6 settlers, a few don't, a few get less, more, whatever. But you also get 2 cherry orchards you have to set up. It's an extra explorer to manage. It's just a lot to click on at the start, and you get shitloads of crates as well. Okay, it's not a big deal, but like making everything run smoothly and nicely at the start is just a lot more stressful. But then only I would say that. But yeah, right from the start of the game, you want to get that first settler in production like every other civilization. I do that 6 seconds in, I think, in this game, which is pretty good. But then my next focus is building a consulate as fast as I can and getting that upgrade in, the Portuguese upgrade, or aligning with the Portuguese as fast as I can, because the Portuguese grant a passive bonus, which minuses the cost of all buildings, including age-up shrines, by 15%. Now, that means that reduces the cost of my shrines from 125 wood to 106 wood. As you can see here, I've waited to build that shrine until the consulate is up, and I have researched it so that I benefit from that reduced cost, and that shrine won't cost me as much. I should have built it like I chose on that first bison herd you might have saw, but then I deleted it because I decided I don't want to build it there. I want to build it in a different one. Why I decided that, I don't know. I think it was like to do with I'm just going to age up with the Shogunate shrine, which is a large shrine, and that requires 8 animals, and I didn't want to use up the animals there in case they moved around and my big shrine didn't get all 8, and that would be a waste. So instead I decided to build this shrine here, but that resulted in not getting that first house up. The shrine is also a house. And not having enough population to queue my settlers, and I think I managed about 11 seconds of idle time on my town center. Normally that won't happen if you do build the shrine promptly as soon as you get the Portuguese upgrade, but here, 11 seconds of idle time, that's fair enough. My first shipment has just arrived. That is the Heavenly Kami shipment. As I said, I'll be aging it with the Shogunate shrine, which makes all of my shrines generate more resources. The Heavenly Kami shipment reduces the cost of my shrines and also benefits their shrine gather rate, so they'll also be generating more resources. And the Portuguese reduces the cost of the shrine, so that is like I'm stacking up all of these things to make my shrines really cheap, to make my boom extremely kind of or as easy and as effective as possible. My main concern at the start here is just collecting treasures. My first treasure was this Fang, the tame coyote. It's not a great treasure for Japan, because obviously you get 2 scouts. It's not really a problem scouting the map. Ottoman obviously only 1 scout, so like anything that moves, like Fang the tame coyote, or even any like kind of scouting unit is good for, say, Ottoman. But for Japan, I don't think it was that useful. Obviously, like a treasure is better than no treasure, so I went for this one. I found that, why not? But my main objective was scouting the map, but then I found this 140 food treasure that was behind my opponent's base, and I thought my opponent hadn't seen it, so I thought, right, definitely going for that, because then I can take that away from him, and also I can have 140 food. 140 food to him, if he found that sooner, would significantly increase his age up time and put a lot of pressure on me, because it would make his rush that much faster. Anyway, I then go over there to get it. I send all of my units over there, abandon the scouting operation because I want this treasure. But then he arrives as well. So what am I going to do? Like you can see here, I'm shooting his warrior priest, and one of my scouts shoots the warrior priest, whilst one of my monk. One of my runs around. So his war chief and his warrior priest follow one monk, whilst one of the others shoot. To try and deal damage, but there is quite a lot of hit points on both of those units, and it's just a lot of effort. It's not really doing a lot, and as you can see, he gets bored and walks away anyway. He sent his coyote. I imagine he used his war chief bonus to convert that, and obviously then put that coyote went into attack one of my monks to get it into hand combat. Doing that means it would slow down. Basically, then I can't escape, because once he's in hand combat, like everything kind of slows that unit down. or that if it's in a group, then it slows the entire group down, and he might be able to kill my monk, which I suppose what he was trying to do, and I noticed that, and I used my monk's crack shot ability. I don't think it's called a crack shot with Japan, but the stun ability that stuns your, it stuns the treasure guardian, it stuns your opponent's treasure guardian, say they converted one, which is, I didn't know that. Well, I do know that. I've known that for a very long time, but like I didn't know that for about maybe 3 months until I started playing the game, which was it's a nice thing to discover. Anyway, right here I'm kind of standing around this treasure because I abandoned hope of getting it. But I kept my monk nearby just in case I could ninja in there and steal it. I thought it was probably a bit late, but I tried anyway. Trying it on, why not? Right now I have 10 settlers on wood. I should have had like 4 on wood the entire time I was aging up, because that way I could have 200 wood in my stockpile by the time I hit age 2. I now do have that 200 wood, and I'm going to use that to build a barracks. I want to get that up as soon as I hit age 2. I do, it's not that much of a problem. I compensated for the fact that I didn't have my settlers on wood by putting a whole bunch of them on wood. And my first shipment in age 2, and my second shipment therefore, is these 4 monks, sorry, my 4 settlers, which are coming around now. And 4 settlers, obviously I'm trying to boom, and 4 settlers is really useful, and obviously settlers, like the earlier you have them, the longer they're in the game, the more they're going to benefit you. My monk is now killing off that a treasure. It's guarded by the outlaw rifleman and the mounted outlaw rifleman. It's 2 sheep, and the reason I'm going for that is, well, it's just the treasure in, isn't it? Killing the treasure guardians is free XP. Why not? And also get 2 sheep. Sheep aren't particularly useful to Japan. What can I use them for? Obviously I can't eat them because Japanese settlers are vegetarian. I would task them to my shrine, and they offer a bonus larger than hunted animals, but that's not really the reason I'm going for. I'm just going for them because I can. It's just one of the treasures I can get. Second shipment just arrived. That's the 5 Yummy Archers, the ranged infantry unit for Japan, and I'm sending them because I'm convinced he's going to rush, although to be fair I don't know he's going to rush yet because I haven't actually scouted him. Although I did play him last game, the game before this, and he rushed me quite hard, so I was convinced he would rush me again. Really, I should have checked his deck to make sure that was the case. If it was the same deck, that would have been a nice indication, or really I should have scouted him. Although I did have my scout when he hit age 2, when Yellow hit age 2, I did have my monk in his base, and I walked through just to see what he aged up with, and I think it was the age up fast option, because I imagine he was training a few extra settlers, and then obviously that slows his age up down, and he compensated for that by aging up with the age up fast option, which they have for age 2. Obviously doing that allows him to have more settlers and still age up on time, which means he'll have a stronger economy, and then that economy can be built into a very powerful, slightly later rush, which is just as formidable and just as powerful. Scouting can kind of really help me know that, and then I can edit my build as appropriate to kind of survive and maximize my boom and defend myself. Now this little bit of conflict is quite interesting. At the time I felt like I came off worse afterwards, but after the game I statistically worked out who actually came off worse after it, and for each time one of my musketeers die, obviously I lose. He receives 12 experience points because those musketeers are worth 120 resources. In actual terms of point score in the top right, that is 1.2. So overall I lost 69 points, which is therefore 6.9 score overall, and he lost 74 points because Mashlin, when they die, are worth 7, and the pikemen are worth 10. I think I was losing 24 points for each musketeer that was dying, but that is only because when the Aztec war chief is in range, anything you kill, like a unit, you receive double XP. So that double XP is useful for him, obviously, for shipments, but it doesn't mean I lost anything extra. He only gained extra. Overall, I lost 6.9 points, and he lost 7.4. But to be entirely honest, I'm not convinced at all that I should have been up there having that conflict at all, simply because sending the 5 Yumi Archers enabled it, because I had a large enough army to go and do that. Without those 5 Yumi Archers, I probably wouldn't have killed as many, and I would have lost more, so the outcome of the fight would have been different. Really though, those 5 Yumi archers shouldn't have been sent, because I should have scouted him and realised that this was going to be a slightly later kind of rush and I'd have slightly more time, and those 5 Yumi archers, as in my first shipment, I've actually now sent a second shipment of 5 Yumi archers, but anyway, that first shipment ought to have been 600 wood. That's 600 wood, meaning obviously I wouldn't have sent the 5 archers, so I wouldn't have bothered going looking for him and having that little bit of conflict. Instead, I'll be using that wood to pop up a bunch of shrines all over the place and just really get that Japanese economy rolling. And then by the time he does get around to rushing, that economy bonus will have paid off, and I'll have the resources and I can start building a stronger military and outmassing him and defending. Obviously, if he's going to attack sooner, because it's not all the time is he going to give me such a long time. If I scouted and realised, say, he was going to be very quick at attacking, then since I'd be expecting a fast attack, I could more appropriately send those 5 Yumi archers. But anyway, in that conflict we just saw there, overall I lost 11.9 score points overall, and he lost 7.7 score points overall, so he came off a little bit better there. To be fair, I only went up to attack because my 5 Yumi Archer shipment arrived, my second one that is, and sent them up, tried to look for some vills, shot a vill, almost killed it. I was going for 2. If I'd all focused on 1, I would have got it, but I didn't. Really should have just stayed in my base because I came off worse. It's just not worth it. I would have had a much better time overall if I just stayed in my base, because there my army would easily be able to defend from his army. I can focus on that boom. 600 wood just arrived, better late than never. Really, as I said, should have been my second shipment after the 4 villagers. Also, in my own base I have access to the Minutemen, or the Japanese equivalent of Minutemen, and Town Centre Fire to cover my units. So yeah, in my base just now, lost that large shrine. His army definitely came off better than mine. Perhaps I would have stood a better chance if I hadn't gone up and searched for that villager and came off badly in the previous fight. And also, if I had had that 600 wood and booming from the start, had that economy rolling by now, obviously I have 1,000 wood in my inventory, couldn't spend that, was focusing on this fight. Having idle resources, not the best thing really. Obviously, since they are idle, they are just literally not doing anything. That wood is not helping me until it is being spent. Obviously that wood is now here. My shrines have been retasked to wood. I got the wood shipment. I think the shrines were on food for a long time. I put them on coin just to get a little bit of extra coin, then switched them back to wood, but I didn't press the wood button, I pressed the food button, so that's a little bit of a fail on my part. But obviously now all of this wood is here. I can spam up these shrines and get them going. Better late than never. As I keep saying, they would have been much more useful early on. So I've now got that market up, getting some of their market upgrades to help my boom along. And I've also got 5 Ashigaru Musketeers as a shipment coming through. Now, it is okay for me to send shipments now, military shipments that is, because I don't have a lot of military, and now that the boom is kind of up and rolling, or at least it's not quite there, I am now building the shrines to get it up and rolling, I will need military to kind of protect it. Obviously, I keep saying these shrines should have been up earlier, and if they were, then I'd have these resources flowing in, and I could be training more units, and instead of sending musketeers now, obviously they've arrived just now, I could have sent, say, the daimyo, giving me that passive bonus of, I'm not entirely sure how much extra attack and hit points you get, or which of those two you do get, but he is there to improve the combat efficiency of your units. So obviously if I had been training those extra units due to this economy, then that daimyo would be much more useful than the Ashigaru, because I'd have more units for his improvements to spread over. But since I don't have them units, obviously 5 Ashigaru Musketeers going to be a more useful shipment right now. His units have come back. They did leave because I think my Minutemen were there and they decided to go, or he decided to bring them back rather, not that they have a mind of their own. And then he comes back. That time though that he was gone was absolutely essential for me to come back, though I think he would have been able to overpower if he stayed. Not sure that was a great decision from me. Anyway, my cavalry there go straight up to his mashal. There's too many pikes around, so I bring them back. It also makes his pikes follow my, so they're not going to swamp around my Ashigaru Musketeers and kill them up. But here I should probably retreat because I've lost the cavalry. They did actually manage to get them. They wasn't very good use of cavalry. As you can see, I bring them back here. And basically now I am waiting on these musketeers and my Naginata riders to come out of my barracks and stable, respectively. I have plenty of resources. I just need them to come out. I have 5 musketeers and hopefully 5 Ashigaru. And also I have that daimyo to give me a nice improvement. I've just got to kind of tank it out until then. I've now just allied myself with the Japanese. The Japanese... obviously I cancelled the Portuguese, or burnt the contract, whatever you want to call it, and then the Japanese give you a plus 10% bonus to all of your units' attack. So right now that is good, and it's nice to switch to that once you finish booming, because you no longer need the reduced shrine costs and stuff like that, and instead, once you've got this big massive military going due to your nice economy, you can then benefit much more by having the upgrade for their attack. Since there's loads of them, it spreads over loads of them, it's nice. But obviously I don't really have that many units for it to be taking effect, but since I have finished booming, it is worth getting anyway. As you can see, those Nagini riders moving around my town centre to make his coyote runners and his pikemen follow me, and to stop them from attacking other things, and also just to generally defend the Nagini riders. But they kind of stopped, but it was alright because there was musks nearby shooting them, and also there wasn't too many, so the riders could kill them off. The Nagini riders being quite instrumental in this fight and its outcome for me. But yeah, in the game, at this point, I remember sitting there just thinking, holy shit, because I'd literally just neutralized his push, his rush, and I have just survived with my booming economy. I have almost a 30 settler economy with all 20 shrines. That just means I'm going to totally be able to overpower him now. It's just going to go completely my way because his rush didn't do enough early damage. Despite my lack of shrines early on and just being generally terrible at booming due to my inability to scout him. That also kind of shows how important scouting is and how useful scouting is. Right now though, as you can see, almost all of my settlers are on food. I've got the most food upgrades from my town centre. Also got that kind of what I like to call the economic theory market upgrade for the Japanese, the one that gives you like plus, I don't know, what is it, like 8% to all the gather rates. That's quite cool. But all of my coin is basically being supported by my shrines, since I have 20 of them, or at least all 20 foundations down. But now that's pretty much it for me. I've successfully survived and neutralized his rush. I now have a majorly booming economy. I'm able to outmass him totally. Expecting him to call GG any moment now. There it is. Good game. Do drop me a like if you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in joining Nation Warriors, there's a link to our forums in the description which can help you with that. Until next time.